Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Issues and Administrators Update on this April 26, 2022. Administrator Gary Schmidt, you're up.
Thank you, Chair Smith. All commissioners are present, of course. We're going to flip the agenda and start with the first item, Performance Clackamas Update, Public Safety Implementation Team Update. We have as our speakers today the Sheriff Angie Brandenburg, District Attorney John Wentworth, and Sue Hildick, Director of Public and Government Affairs. This is to update you on your board priority about public safety and then have a little longer discussion about public safety in general. So Sue will kick it off, and then the Sheriff and the District Attorney will speak, and then Commissioners, any questions you have. So Sue, go ahead, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, nice to see you. My name is Sue Hildick. I am the Director of Public and Government Affairs and the Chair of the Performance Clackamas Implementation Team focused on public safety. Happy to be here with Sheriff Brandenburg and District Attorney Wentworth. And we're here on behalf of the entire team, which represents the ecosystem of public safety in the county. So along with law enforcement and the DA, that includes juvenile resources, 911 or CCOM, community corrections, the courts and the law library, and mental and behavioral health, and the county's Equity and Inclusion Office. Many, many hands touch this work. Our charge is to help identify new and existing funding sources for this ecosystem with a particular focus on capital needs. PGA chairs this group because of the hope that state and federal funds can be leveraged through our government relationships. Our work thus far has been focused on securing state matching funds for the replacement courthouse, which we did on March 22nd of this year. $94.5 million has been secured, and the BCC will soon consider moving forward with the construction process. We've also launched a process to update the Red Soils Master Plan in the upcoming fiscal year, including facility needs beyond the campus itself. A revision to this plan is both timely and necessary due to the potential addition of the replacement courthouse, which will impact available land going forward. Our team has produced 4 white papers outlining the most pressing capital needs for public safety in the county. 4 projects have emerged at the top of this list, including adult detention, juvenile justice, 911, and a family justice center. We are just beginning to discuss the connections between these needs and how they might impact planning for the future. What we do know today is that the need for a strong, interdependent public safety system has never been greater, and we know that Clackamas County residents value this highly. Before I turn the floor over to my colleagues, I just want to remind you of the most current public opinion data we have to guide this work. In the last Clackamas County Community Survey, which was 2020, when provided a list of county services, residents ranked public safety-related issues overall as 3 of the top 4 priorities in terms of being valuable. So if you look at very valuable and somewhat valuable, the top answer is responding to emergencies and natural disasters at 95%. Law enforcement is second at 94%, and assisting victims of domestic violence is next at 92%. Thank you.
Wow, interesting. Thank you very much for that, Sue. So which one of our electeds would like to go first?
I'm happy to go first.
Thank you, John Wentworth, District Attorney.
Chair Smith, Commissioners, I guess I just want to piggyback a little bit about what Sue Hildick was sharing. And I'm not going to tell you anything you don't already know, which is if there is a core function of government, it's to provide for the health and safety of the people who live within a jurisdiction. Clackamas County does that very well. We always have. Part of that strength and our ability to provide public safety is built on partnerships among agencies, nonprofit agencies, governmental agencies that collaborate better than any county I've ever seen or heard of. We're very fortunate in that regard. That has been a tradition since I came to Clackamas County over 20 years ago. I don't see that changing. That's the positive. That's not to say that there aren't challenges that we currently face and that we're working to address those challenges. I know the sheriff has some statistics to share that I think you'll find interesting. I have statistics to share, but I welcome this opportunity to speak to our leaders about what we can do going forward to provide for the health and safety of Clackamas County residents, and to maintain that tradition of providing safety to our folks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your opening, and we'll get into more details. Sheriff Brandenburg.
Yeah, just real quickly, I want to say that the Public Safety Implementation Team has been a fantastic place that we can all collect as leaders of public safety. So thank you, County Administrator Schmidt, for that, and Sue for your leadership on that committee. We've never had a single place, I think, where all of the public safety leaders have convened, discussed our issues, talked about priorities, and it's been super helpful in us trying to figure out, how we can support one another and how we can get this work done, because, well, we have perhaps a new courthouse coming. We know we need a new jail. We know that 911 center needs a center. The Family Justice Center needs to also be built. And how do we do that? With limited funds, and however, we have the power here to figure out that funding. I mean, look what happened with the courthouse. So for that, I think it's fantastic as we move forward. It's a great venue for us to figure out how we can work together collectively to get this figured out, because it's too important.
I like where this conversation is going. If you can look at it for a moment from a public safety network that we have in Clackamas County, and you, John, mentioned the collaboration. And I can see that. I also see areas for improvement. Are there any silos that exist that we can share information and/or services? And there may not be. I mean, the Sheriff's Department, you have a very specific charge, as does the District Attorney, and some could say that's a silo in itself. But where we can cross over, as I think, is what we're trying to identify where we can go forward. And to maximize the use of the public dollars that are coming in. We've always been trying to do that. That's very important. And we are interdependent upon each other for success. So, Sheriff, I know that you know that the jail has been something that has needed to be replaced. But what happened? We have 50% match from the legislature for the courthouse. So the courthouse became the priority because of the funding model. And we have challenges going forward with the courthouse as well, on costs and just getting it out of the starting gate. And it's going to be very challenging for us, too. And a majority of public safety dollars comes from our general fund, and that's a challenge for our budget and finance people and this board. What do we look at about our general fund? And so it's a huge amount of money, and I can see the pressures on the general fund increasing as more public safety needs arise in the county. And some of those we can start with, let's just name them: legalization of marijuana that the voters put on. The passage of Measure 110 that the voters, and we have this drug addiction that's running wild and it's not doing what it intended to do. We have pressures from our neighbors in the north, in Portland, with the riots. And most recently we have the abandoned RVs that we're putting general fund money into, and that's a lot of money. And so, but that's what I believe the citizens of Clackamas County are telling us to do. And we have polling to back that up. We have a most recent poll that John Wentworth provided, and that poll says that people have basically had it. They feel less safe than they've ever been before. They're concerned about the crime and safety is up. And additionally, I'm just going to share some of those results because John said I could. And there's 4 questions there's 4 polling data that I'm going to share with you on this. This question is, over the past 2 years, has your city or county become more or less safe? In Clackamas County, 68% said less safe. That's huge. Over the past 2 years, has community safety and crime concerns become more important to you or less important? 75% of the people said they are more important to us in Clackamas County than ever before. And Angie made the point about the jail. Expanding local jail capacity to allow the police to arrest and hold criminals who commit crime. Now, these are criminals. 78% in Clackamas County said yes. These are some huge numbers, Commissioners. And the final survey result I'm going to read. Law enforcement needs more resources and funding, not less. That came in at 62%. Now, this is, I think, is a reflection of what real-life activities are happening, what they see across the nation, what they see in Portland, and how we want to maintain our sovereignty here in Clackamas County. So I think looking forward, we're going to have to do some things like we haven't done before, like budget for the removal of abandoned RVs. And Commissioners, we've all been getting emails from constituents or social media, why aren't you doing anything? Why aren't you doing anything? And so we're moving ahead, I think, on some of those actions. The removal of RVs, for instance, is very visible, and people don't like that too. So my goal today to have this, not only is it one of our, in our strategic plan and one of our goals to support public safety, build a courthouse and a jail, but just to talk about the investment, where we need to invest, where we can collaborate, and what you need, you two both need, besides money. And I can identify those, but I'd rather have you talk about it. I have a commissioner who has his hand up, and any other commissioners can weigh in on this. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, well, thank you both for what you all do. I do know that with the dollars and resources we all have, we always need to prioritize. And so I have the budget concerns. If we build this courthouse, how that's really going to put a lot of pressure on the general fund. So I just trying to, not there yet, we'll figure this out to make sure we can still fund everything that we need to fund. That's, on the law enforcement side, let's say. So, Sheriff, appreciate our conversation earlier. I'm looking forward to looking at your new dashboard. I am been overwhelmed with neighbors and people that I know, 2 family members, number of things, big issue about crime, local crime, small crime, but it scares people when they get their car broken into or their vehicle stolen or their home broken into, stuff stolen, and because of other priorities, they're not the priority call for the sheriff coming out. Not a criticism at all, but I do know, and I know there's frustration too, because the guys want to go out there and they want to get the bad guys, and they're doing everything we can. So I'm just curious right now at this moment. I don't know what your call volume is, or can you just give me the feeling of what the most amount of crimes that we're responding to right now, because the personal stuff, the personal property crimes that are going on right now, it just seems to be scaring people, and I think that's why I think it drives some of those polling numbers. When the sheriff or the response calls a day later or a few hours later and takes the report and says, well, we're just overwhelmed, we can't get out there. It doesn't give them the confidence that we're funding law enforcement.
I agree with you. And next week, I will be coming back to talk about our staffing study that County Administrator Schmidt, I don't want to keep calling you Commissioner,
That's
helped
okay, I
us.
did the other day.
Right, I know, I saw. So it comes down really to staffing, and I'll show you our data for staffing. And I can say that the staffing study is not going to tell really us anything that we don't already know anecdotally, but it'll tell us in numbers. And it'll tell us, how we can get out of this, which we're working on now. Fortunately for us, we have the support of our voters. They supported the levy. That is going to be huge to help us with our numbers. Right now, we are recruiting and training and getting folks out on the street, but it takes us a lot of time to do that. So we, as you probably recall, we had a big hiring group back in the 90s that retired, and it's people wanted to retire. So we are back to where we are. We've got people in training. We have people that are on board during our hiring process, but then we also have these levy positions that are coming, which will be hugely helpful, and we'll show you that in the staffing study about how those numbers will help, because right now, we're just answering calls for service primarily. So when people, want us to patrol the highways and do traffic stops and do the proactive things, drive down the neighborhood streets, which our people want to do, but we are going from call to call to call, and there's some very interesting graphs that we'll show you that shows that. And the only way to get out of that is to add people, is to add patrol deputies to that. So we do have a plan. We are hiring, as fast as we can right now in this environment, which is challenging. But we are, I think, on the other side of this. And so I'm excited to share the staffing study with you. But right now, crimes are going up. So we have our 2021 crime stats that are on our website. So if you go to our website, there's a tab that says statistics. And I pulled 2018 statistics because I wanted to do something before COVID. So our persons crimes are up 13%, 13.2% since 2018. This is the end of 2021. Property crimes are up 6.8%. And that is, I think, probably a trend that's happening pretty much everywhere, not just Clackamas County. Our calls for service, they continue to increase. And right now, our people are responding to crimes. We would love to be proactive, but until we get more people turned out, that's going to be problematic. And we'll show you with the slides next week to show you the proactivity rate of our deputies, but also how many people we need.
Great.
I applaud everyone's good work on this, and I applaud all those deputies. I know that these times, sometimes law enforcement's criticized and frowned on, right, on this defunding kind of environment that people somewhat believe, which I think clearly in Clackamas County, that's not the case. We support and believe and value our law enforcement, our justice system as well. So, kudos to everyone that's doing. But just the one question I had there, I'm sorry if you missed it, if I wasn't clear. Right now at this moment, what do you think the most common nature of the calls are at this moment that you're receiving at your office?
So I think primarily they are livability crimes. So responding to folks who, nuisance type calls of folks who are trespassing, probably petty theft. It's livability issues primarily. We do have our stolen vehicles, which is everywhere. You're probably hearing about unauthorized use of vehicles is up from 2018 about almost 40%. And so it's property type crimes, although there are some persons crimes that are on the rise as well. Domestic violence, it's up 27% from 2018. So the trend is continuing upwards.
Thank you.
And I think it's not unlike, across the nation.
Yeah, it's astounding. You read off those statistics. Paul, any more?
Yep. Thank you so much. And again, my kudos to you and all your staff and all the deputies out there doing what they're doing. So
Thank you. We appreciate that. They're working super hard to keep us all safe. And I was telling Commissioner's office that we just launched just this week a new online tool, which is a dashboard for calls for service, because I want to give people a place to go to look at crime in their neighborhood to see what's happening. And so on our website, Clackamas County Sheriff's Office you'll scroll down to dashboard, and you can filter that through unincorporated areas. It's a really powerful tool. It's uploaded monthly, so we'll be uploading that monthly, but you can go to the ELED, you can look at our cities, our contract cities, so there's all kinds of filters. It's very powerful. So it comes from our CAD data, so the calls for service for our deputies. And then our next online tool, which will come hopefully in the next coming weeks, will be the actual crimes that are reported in neighborhoods. So I think that's going to be a great place for folks to go. It's filterable by CPOs and hamlets and that kind of thing. So people will have that information at their fingertips to see about activity in their neighborhood.
Great. I think the dashboard is just very exciting. We just need to talk more about that. Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, I just want to thank both of you for the hard work you do for public safety. And I know that John and Angie, you both know I have a daughter who is a prosecutor and in Superior Court and does all the domestic violence, child abuse, and murder cases is her workload. So you gave me some statistics on domestic violence. What have we got in terms of child abuse and, dare I say, murder cases? Because she has been, since she's been back at work, after having her child, it's just kind of skyrocketed on the East Coast in Massachusetts.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, I didn't pull those specifically because I want to compare them from 2018, but I can get those for you.
Okay.
And I'm going to venture to say that at least the child abuse cases are up post-COVID. We know that kids are now back in school, and we had a spike in reports, mandatory reporting.
Because the teachers see them.
They're finally seeing the kids.
Yeah, so mandatory
Yeah.
reporters who are seeing kids and they're reporting, activity to us to investigate, and then to John's to prosecute.
You asked the question about homicides, and I
Yeah.
want to address that. Last year, I promised myself I wouldn't make this comparison, but it's there. Portland had the highest number of homicides it had ever had.
Yeah,
Clackamas County had 5.
okay, so we
Now,
are,
that's 5 families in Clackamas County who are hurting because they've lost someone. Those are 5 deaths, and that's not insignificant. There were 94 in Multnomah County. So I understand the fear or the concern of Clackamas County residents that they feel less safe. Clackamas is not like some other places in the state, and I'm proud of that. Another statistic I want to brag about is, when we talk about, I kicked this off with talking about collaboration and what that means. When this commission helped form the Family Justice Center in 2013, one of the goals of the commission at the time was that there would be no domestic violence, intimate partner homicides in Clackamas County. And I will tell you, as a domestic violence prosecutor at the time, I didn't think we could do it. I didn't think that was possible. But the notion was, if we provide a place where people can go and get the services they need and de-escalate situations that are otherwise violent within a home, we might be able to do that. We haven't had an intimate partner homicide in Clackamas County in over 3 years.
Wow.
good job.
That shows the level of support and collaboration that we have in Clackamas County. I don't think that's an accident. I don't think it's just the FJC. I think there are other things that we have in place that we didn't do 20 years ago that we do now, but that's because we continue to learn and build and be better at the work that we do. So I think that's something to be proud of. I don't think many other communities can speak of that. We're going to have another one. There will be another intimate partner homicide, but I like where we are. I'm proud of that statistic.
Can I have
Yeah,
my
go
daughter give you a ring sometime?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to talk to her.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you for that.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Commissioner
All right.
Fisher.
Thank you both for being here. Really appreciate it. One thing that's been on my mind, I know I've talked to Sheriff Brandenburg about it, talked to her predecessor about it, talked to the presidents of the Peace Officers Association about it. I am really interested in figuring out how we are going to fund these very important jail, Family Justice Center. We really need to figure out how we're going to do that. And with our funding systems being our general fund, half of our budget goes to public safety, it's not so easy to figure out how to get there to fund. And so years ago, there was a research study that was done before me, might have been, of course it was in Commissioner Schrader's reign, but not in mine. I'm not sure if Chair Smith was on the commission at the time or if it even got to the commission, but it was a look at a potential district, a public safety district that was countywide that would, right now we have law enhancement enforcement districts where certain areas pay additional for more services. But if there was a district-wide public safety district, and I'm just curious if that's been talked about within this group, if that's something that we might look at again, if it's feasible or not feasible. I don't know if it is, but I'm just curious where we are with that conversation.
Yes, to all of that. So I've had talks, and we've had talks before I became sheriff. And I think that Deschutes County Sheriff's Office is funded by a service district model. There are models out there to take a look, and so I've had lots of conversations with County Administrator Schmidt. And I think that is something that I want to look at. I'm not a fan of doing things how we've always done things because it's how we've always done things. So if a service district model is viable and if it is beneficial to the county and to the sheriff's office, that is really my next kind of big goal, is to take a look at that and to move forward with that. Of course, bring that back to you all to see if that is something that we want to do.
So what would our process be to look at the feasibility of that?
So Deschutes County Sheriff's Office has offered for us to come and talk with their folks. They built that from the ground up. So first of all, to collect that first initial information, and then I'll come back to Mr. Schmidt. And I think that that should give us some insight, I think, into whether it's viable or enough for us to move forward. But well, that is definitely something we need to look at, because I see it as replacing the levy and the ELED into one bucket, right? And so public safety is important to folks, and I think that that of course it would have to go to the voters eventually if this is something we wanted to move forward with. But I think that our voters would be supportive if it is a viable model.
And the research, and I haven't seen that report that was done all those years ago. I've just heard about it. It lives in the memories of people that it was recommended that we move to that type of model. Would that be useful to dig that up and look at what was studied as a frame, or?
You know, I think that it's such old information. I don't know how useful it will be.
Okay.
But I hear you, and you are, yes, for sure. That's something that we're going to look at.
Great, thank you.
You talk about a public safety district. I think you'd have to have a conversation about including the jail in a county-wide district, because we've already have the pressures of the courthouse on our general fund. And so that needs to be included in there. And I think, first of all, how I would look at it, it would be at the 30,000-foot level. I would look at every single public safety need in this county, how it's being paid for or how it's not being paid for, but identify it, okay? You know, put a cursory dollar amount to it and say, okay, where are we going to get the money for that? Where are we going to get the money for that? And there's some things we can do internally as well, and I've talked to you about that. But I think we need to identify every single need. Talk to the Deschutes County people, of course. This is going to be a long time in the making, maybe several years. But our messaging is so important. And you say that just because we've done things the same way, we're not going to do them for the future that way. I agree wholeheartedly with that, because if COVID taught us anything, it taught us to be flexible and provide services in a different way than we've ever had before. And a lot of it, including me, I struggled. I just struggled with the fact, well, we need to get back to the way we were doing things. Well, then you show up and you realize, maybe there's a more efficient model for that, right? And, you know, I was probably real old school, but I think I'm coming around, and I'm trying to look at things better, more efficiently. So I think that's going to bode well. Commissioner Scholl, your hand is up.
Oh, it is? Okay. Sheriff Brandenburg and District Attorney Wentworth, thank you very much for your service to the county, and please pass along a thank you to all your personnel. The way I see today's situation in public safety is you have your finger in the dike, holding back potential flood of crime, and we're doing all we can, you're doing all you can to keep the people of Clackamas County safe. But the frustration is that we are subject to decisions made outside the county that affect what's going on here. For example, Measure 110. For example, the lack of order and law enforcement on our border, all borders, that result in a corresponding flood of illegal drugs. So we're in a time where endurance is going to be very important, because as we have more and more challenges outside that we have to react to that we can't really control from the county, at the same time we have growing fiscal limitations on what we can do. And I know that you all need capital improvements to augment your operations. And we're just going to have to deal with those one at a time. Everybody up here wants to see that courthouse, wants to see a jail, wants to see other facilities that will help improve public safety in the county. But I once again, I want to thank you for your endurance, but hang in there and do as best you can with what we have to work with. And we'll hope to God that sometime in the near future, things settle down and you can take your finger out of that dike and things will go back to pre-1999 or 2018 even. So thank you again. Please pass on a thank you to all your personnel.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, about 3 years ago, your predecessors and I gathered a bunch of people asking them to talk about, the public safety system as a whole. What do we need? Where are the gaps? And what would we do to prioritize it? And it was a conversation I was hoping to continue as it came to planning. So what I hear from a number of folks in your line of work, on both sides, as well as the business community and so forth, and people that are actually experiencing some of these situations, was the growing issue of local crime being driven by drug, alcohol, and mental health abuses or situations, and the need for that, and really ranking that way up high. Even now, our firefighters and public safety people in that realm are dealing with that more than ever. It's almost their number one priority call, so to speak. So I would really like to maybe get a better understanding about whether it's a town hall or whether it's sitting that table again to talk about the system and where we need what and when and how we prioritize it. And I hear from a number of people say, what we really need, and even law enforcement people, whether the police or sheriff's deputies, say what we really need is a place to take these folks. It's not the jail. It's not the jail they belong. And to get the treatment or the detoxing that they need. And I know that we've talked about supportive housing services to get some people the on-site help, but there's people that need really to be housed for a number of days or whatnot to get their meds straightened up or detoxed or whatever it may be. Where would you rank that?
It's number one on my list here, preparing for today. So a stabilization center or a respite center, a place where we can divert folks coming to the jail for low-level crimes. The district attorney has other crimes that they want to prosecute. Those are not, simply having a person who's affected by mental illness should not put them into the criminal justice system. And we all know that Oregon is not doing well with having, to care for folks who are affected by mental illness. And they don't belong in jail. They belong somewhere where we can care for them and to give them the treatment that they need and divert them from our criminal justice system. Unfortunately, that's not happening, and folks are coming to our jail that should not be in jail. I have some statistics to talk about our folks. So admissions from the jail to the Oregon State Hospital from 2013 to 2021 have increased 800%. So ordered evaluations for folks who are incarcerated in our jail increased over 1,000% since 2013. So the jail is becoming the de facto, mental health care for folks. And we do care for folks when they come through. We work really closely with NAMI. We work close with our public health. We have case managers. We have programs, our Clackamas County Rapid Forensic Evaluation Assessment Program, where we wrap services around folks in an effort to, when they come out to the community, that they're supported. But the jail is doing this work, and it's wrong. And so, and then also for, we used to have a detox center in Portland, and they went out of business, primarily because folks are affected with drugs. So it's not just alcohol. When I started back in the 90s, we would take folks there that needed a detox of alcohol. Great place to take folks. And they closed their doors because of the mix of drugs and alcohol. People were violent. That was not meant to be a center for that. So there's literally no place to go except for hospital emergency rooms for some of these folks, or they're coming to the jail on low-level crimes. Because you have citizens who are calling, and it's this cycle, and there's not enough support. And as a center where we could divert folks, not just from the sheriff's office, but from all of our law enforcement partners in the county, is a huge need right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Commissioner Schrader and I at the NACO, not the NACO, but the AOC conference visited the facility in Lane County, the wet facility, and I just wondering how they funded that. We ought to look into that, how they got that off the ground.
Yeah.
So
And we learn from their issues that they've had that we can do things better.
There's an interesting article today, folks, I want to divert your attention to in what Dylan put out in our newscom from the Mail Tribune. And the headline is, Oregon ranks 50th in addiction help, but yet we're the second worst for addictions. And it's a very long article, but down in the body of that article, they cite a plan the legislature passed maybe 4 or 5 years ago to address this. And so I think there is a plan maybe sitting on the shelf, but they failed to pass it. And so it's not like we have to recreate the wheel. So I've asked Emily, my policy advisor, she's going to look into it maybe with the help of some of the folks in the room. What was that plan? And why wasn't it funded? And so, and you, both of you have told me and this board that the legislature has really tied your hands. For instance, on the stops you can make, Sheriff, on the crimes that you can prosecute, DA, and that is a problem. Trespass is no longer illegal. Is that true?
Well, in certain cases.
In certain
Trespassing
cases.
is illegal. Yeah, that's still illegal.
But we're not able to enforce the trespass laws that we once want. And then the public comes to us, do something about the people sleeping on the side of the roads. Well, as we know, the Ninth Circuit Court has come down with a decision. I'm not going to go into the long, but that is an issue that I think maybe collectively this board and both of you can look at the legislature for not only the money to do some of this stuff, but say, did you once have a plan and then weren't able to implement it, and why was that? I have 2 other commissioners in the queue. Commissioner Schrader?
Yeah, Angie, it seems to me, and John, you don't you have a mental health folks embedded when your deputies go out and they assess it, it's a mental illness challenge that they're facing? Could you talk a little bit about that program? Because it still exists. And,
We have one clinician who's still embedded with us.
Okay.
So I know that we work in partnership with H3S, and they are gearing up their mobile crisis response. There was quite a bit, I think, of money from the legislature for the mobile crisis response, which will hopefully extend the hours and their outreach. But we have one clinician that's with us. That's embedded. And
Right.
so that's super helpful, and it's a model that's being replicated by our other cities.
Right.
So Oregon City, Wilsonville, Westland, I think Milwaukee's also looking. So at embedding the clinician. So it's having someone else go instead of a law enforcement officer in some of these situations. Sometimes it's going with, but oftentimes it's the outreach calls afterwards, the follow-up calls, super helpful. And so we recently received a grant as well. So we're in the hiring process to have start up a model that'll be an actual clinician that'll be riding with one of our deputies. So hopefully we can figure that out and see how that works and perhaps fund that once the grant runs out. But we're trying to be creative in how we do our business, responding to what the citizens want us to do in law enforcement in regards to mental health issues. And unfortunately, I know that there's, I think the 988 line is being launched for diverting folks from 911, which is great.
Then they dial 988 on their
988.
phones. And when will that be up?
I think fairly soon. I thought I heard, Commissioner Fisher, about the 988 number.
Yes, I do, and it is coming up soon. There's a lot
Soon.
of planning going around that. If Mary Rumbaugh was, I bet Brenda Durbin knows when that 988 is coming online exactly.
That's okay.
The 988 number, it's coming soon. There's a lot of planning, and that will really revolutionize things.
Yeah, so we're trying to, as D.A. Whitmore says, trying to do things differently and figure out how we can be more efficient and respond to folks. But mental health, addiction issues, they're driving a lot of public safety right now issues. 47% of our folks housed in custody have mental health or prescribed mental health medication. And so it is a big deal. And if you, Commissioner Savas, talk with law enforcement officers across the county, no matter where you went, their number one issue would be is where can we take people instead of taking them to jail?
Right. That's very important.
And to get help. And I think about it like a family justice center for mental health and addiction.
Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up then. So you think expanding this program one way or the other, it looks as if that you're looking at models to make sure that your deputies have the opportunity to work with the mental health professionals in a way that, so thank you for that. My next question is, let's talk a little bit about fentanyl. Let's talk about meth. What's going on out there? Because a lot of things we're hearing from parents and families and young people really dying from things. I have a friend whose son died that way. So what are you seeing out there, and what are we doing to manage that and handle it?
Well, it is a huge
Question for
problem.
both of you.
It
Yeah.
is huge, and I know folks as well who have had family members, young
Yeah.
folks, pass from fentanyl, and it's unsuspecting, thinking they're taking another pill, and it is a pill that will kill you. We are seeing a record amounts of fentanyl in our communities. So I have some stats to share with you, we'll show you. 2019, so our Clackamas County Interagency Task Force, which is our drug interagency team, which is primarily funded through the levy dollars. So appreciate the citizens continuing our levy funding for that very important team. As you remember, March 1st, we had a record amount of fentanyl seizures right here in Oregon City. It was the biggest in the state's history, with 20 pounds of suspected fentanyl, and it has a street value about $4 million, and 150,000 counterfeit prescription pills containing fentanyl. That was right here in Oregon City. But in 2019, our team seized about 2,500 pills. No powder. 2020, it was 5,200 pills, no powder. In 2021, it was 82,813 pills, 1.4 pounds of fentanyl powder. So far in 2022, we've, through March 2nd of this year, we've seized 243,956 pills.
Wow,
That's our team.
wow.
So it shows you the prevalence. It's inexpensive, it's highly addictive, and it's a problem.
Yes, it is. Commissioner Fisher.
Yeah, that is really a problem. Question, I know that Unity was established as a regional resource for mental health crisis and stabilization. I'm online looking at, where are we with Unity online? I'm just curious, I know it's regional, are we utilizing Unity, or is it just full? It served over 22,000 individuals according to their website since it was established, was it 5 years ago? How is that a resource for us in Clackamas County as a regional service?
So I think that probably that question, H3S could answer that question better for you. From what I understand, is that Unity was quickly overwhelmed with the need, and people stayed a lot longer than was expected. I think at one point they were over budget, and I just think that the need was so overwhelming.
Okay, so we don't utilize that. If someone's in a mental health crisis, we take them to local hospital emergency rooms?
I can't, so we don't take people directly to Unity. So our folks go by AMR to a local hospital, and then from there.
Then they may go to
Yeah.
Unity.
But I know that we funded, partially funded Unity and have beds there, I believe. I'm kind of getting over my.
Yeah, that's okay. I was just wanting to know that it was still a regional resource as I expected. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. In your closing comments today, is there anything you would like this board to know about what you do and what you need?
Well, I have an ask. Your question at the top of this hour was, what can we do for you that doesn't cost money? Our legislature continues to enact laws that take power away from law enforcement, from prosecutors, to make the public safe. And they're going to try again in 2023. I already know. I've already heard some of the rumblings about some of the things they'd like to try. This last legislative session, for example, there were 4 bills considered, 4 of them, that would have reduced the penalty for rape, kidnapping, robbery. That would have made Oregon less safe. All 4 of those bills failed, but barely. So that's just an example, right? We've reduced, the Oregon legislature has reduced the penalty for aggravated murder, not just by taking many of the crimes off the table for the death penalty, but then reducing that sentence even further, for example. Now, does that have something to do, I mean, is that one of the reasons that Portland has such a homicide rate? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe not. But it's not a disincentive anymore to commit murder. We continue to get unfunded mandates from the legislature in my office to review cases post-conviction. That's work that my deputies are doing that you're paying for, which I'm grateful for, but the legislature just requires us to do it, and we have to march on as if we've never had more clemency requests than we've had from this governor, ever. That's a new workload. Expungements have to be taken care of more quickly than ever before. For example, even in terms of the type of service that we can provide, the legislature in the last legislative session, well, not the short session, but the last long session, it's as simple as when we provide discovery, the case to the defense, we have to provide them with the name, address, and telephone number of anybody that we intend to call as a witness at trial. For example, and I know this seems like a little thing to you, but it's a big deal for us. They don't have to provide us the phone number, the defense. The pendulum of the balance of, you imagine the scales of justice, the scales are tipping. And they've been tipped significantly in favor of the defendant. In an adversarial system, when you take power away from one side, you give it to the other side. Mm-hmm. Now, as I've shared with our local legislators, I get paid the same no matter what. My deputies get paid the same no matter whatever the law looks like. We're going to come to work and we're going to do our job, right? Really, when you take power away from the state, you take it away from the crime victim who comes in and puts their safety at risk to come in and say, this person did something of some harm to me, right? And you give that power to the defendant. Now, there are people who will tell you that they believe, and I totally get it, they felt that balance was already weighing in favor of the state too much to start with, and they're trying to right that. That is an argument, and whoever wants to adopt that can. But when we continue to have challenges like, I can't just come into court with a medical bill and have the court consider that as reasonable proof of restitution to a crime victim. I have to call somebody from the healthcare provider to say, no, that's a reasonable expense. So that's additional challenges that we have. Now with probation, it's no longer a general condition of probation that you have to abstain from the use of controlled substances. You can use methamphetamine if you're on probation. I mean, that's how crazy this has gotten, right? And and I know I'm taking up a lot of time, but I want to share with you the question that came about drugs. Yeah. If you pay attention to our local headlines, and the chair brought this up, Oregon Live did an article in April of this year, and the title of it, Oregon Decriminalized Drugs in 2020, How's It Going? And the punchline was, it's not going very well. In fact, it's not going at all. $30 million has already been spent on this. They're about to spend $300 million more, and there's been no treatment through the provision of citations. That was the issue, right? We're going to give citations and people are going to seek treatment. They're not seeking treatment. They're not even showing up to court. That's what the stats show. Oregon ranks first in meth and opioid use. That's according to Medford television station. KPDV reported in February. Study finds Oregon ranks second in the country for addiction and last in treatment. The Lund report in December, meth a significant factor among homeless deaths in Multnomah County. They found that half of all homeless deaths in Multnomah County were because of meth, right? So you asked the sheriff about drugs. The largest meth bust in Oregon history was in October. The largest fentanyl bust that the sheriff was talking about, that was in March. And why would that be? Well, when you decriminalize drugs and the demand goes up, there's going to be a supply. So anybody who thinks, well, once we decriminalize drugs, we don't have to have the police anymore. They don't have to do that work. They're doing the work, and they're finding the largest drug bust in our state's history. They've had a massive drug seizure in West Salem for opioid pills. Klamath Falls had a drug trafficking ring they busted. There's violence resulting. Oregon Live reported in February, drug dealers suspected in fatal Old Town shooting, bystander says. KGW in December, police arrest multiple suspects for execution-style murder in Gresham. drug bust, drug involved. And then the worst one, if you want to just talk about the effects on family, Coyne reported in March, 6-month-old boy found alone in motel room days after mother overdoses. So that's our community now, right? We don't have the treatment, but there's not an army of people ready to provide this treatment. Even if you had the money, you don't have the people.
Right.
Not you, but we don't have the people. That's where we're at right now, and it's only going to get more challenging. And I would like, come back full circle to answer your question, I would like more help from the commission when the legislature rolls around and says we want to enact these laws. The commission says, well, not in Clackamas County, right? This is not good for our county. And I know other commissions are doing that around the state, and I think that's making a difference.
Okay.
But we need that more.
Sue, you got that?
I got it.
Thank you. Maybe you can help us with talking points on that as well. Sheriff Brandenburg, do you have any closing comments or statements?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for the support of this commission. The Defund the Police movement came around, and you guys were steadfast in that, and I appreciate that. And I can tell you that John's office and my office are working hand in hand to keep our community safe, hold folks accountable. That's what it's going to take. I think that we have a reputation in Clackamas County that folks are going to be held accountable. I've shared stories about how our interagency drug team tries to bring their folks here to do the bust so they can bust them here, and people are like, that's Clackamas County, let's go somewhere else, and I'll meet you somewhere else, because we do have that reputation, and we will arrest, and John's office will prosecute. And I think that is a winning combination in holding folks accountable and keeping our community safe, because Clackamas County is safer here than other places.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, it's just almost a recurring theme here. A lot of the big challenges we have and the misunderstandings amongst our citizens are about who's responsible for what, right? Some folks feel that we are the authority over the deputies, for example, or the courts, right? It's the county commissioners that hired that judge that made that decision. And we hear the legislature, it's a recurring thing, tolling, who made the decision? The legislature. Who made the decision with some of these things that District Attorney, you're stating here today? The legislature. Our land use issues that people are complaining about, the legislature. I think town halls and messaging needs to be put out there so people understand really who they need to talk to and who's representing them and how this is why it's all going so bad. It's not us. Our boots are on the ground. We're trying to fight it, but yet those unfunded mandates or some of the policy issues that are being set at the state legislature, that's what's hurting us.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas, and we're going to try to wrap this up. Please be brief, Commissioner Fisher.
Yeah, thank you. So it's very timely. Chair Smith and I have been working with staff about, especially in the wake of Measure 110, and to what the challenges are with that. What kind of fixes do we need at the legislature, engaging there? So your thoughts on what changes we need to request from the legislature, because it is not working with how that was designed. People are not seeking treatment when they get their citation or their drug and alcohol evaluation, and it is not working, and it is creating more problems. So whatever we can do now to get ready for the next session is,
I think it's a great idea.
is a very much a priority for this commission. So we are already talking like that. We just need your brains.
Yeah, so Sue will reach out to your people or you or whomever, how you want
Thank
to
you.
handle this. And
Perfect.
we'll get
great.
a plan put together. I want to thank you both coming before us today and explaining the situation. And I think we have a better understanding. I think maybe we have some cursory goals out there that we can work toward. This has been a very good conversation. And thank you for your service. I think that's most important.
Thank you so much.
Thank
You
you.
bet.
All right,
Gary Schmidt, what's up next?
Thank you. Chair, would you please convene the Housing Authority of Clackamas County Board?
I will now recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the Housing Authority of Clackamas County.
Thank you, Chair. There is a request for a consent agenda for the Housing Authority of Clackamas County, and that is approval of the 2021-2024 labor agreement between the Housing Authority of Clackamas County and the Clackamas County Employees Association for Housing Authority employees. The total contract value over 3 years is $645,603. This is funded through rental income, federal funds, fees and fines, investment income, and other incomes. No county general funds are involved. Eric Serra, I believe you're going to present this. Surprise, come on down. So Eric Serra is the Deputy Director of Human Resources and our Chief Labor Negotiator. This is just a 2-minute update on what they're going to approve on a consent agenda, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. With the ask of the placement on this consent agenda, this would be a 3-year contract labor agreement with the CCEA Housing Authority represented employees. This contract itself will, it matches your goal with, one, sustainability, of our, and viability with our, within our market. We're also with negotiations, we've also did better alignment with our contracts. So our employees are actually we're trying to get similarity with that. So I do ask for your approval of this contract.
Any questions, comments for the presenter? Any objections? Hearing none. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Eric. So this will be on this Thursday's business meeting for your formal approval there. All right, thanks, Eric. But I'll invite you back in a minute for the other items. Chair, would you now reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners?
I now recess as the Housing Board of Clackamas County and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners for the remainder of the consent agenda.
All right, thank you. Next is, we're continuing with consent agenda review. This is for county business. We'll start with County Council. 1, approval of a limited delegation of signing authority to the county administrator to sign certain property use agreements where there is no lease or property interest created. These agreements are typically short-term and involve nominal dollar values. This limited delegation of authority will increase efficiency and ensure department program needs can be met quickly. Andrew Naylor is Assistant County Counsel and will give a quick update. Go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. Gary summarized that pretty clearly. There's not much more for me to add. What we're talking about are just short-term agreements, typically short-term, to use somebody else's property. So it's private businesses allowing use of like a parking lot for a vaccine center or a food distribution center. You have been seeing a lot of these post the expiration of the emergency orders. And in County Council's opinion, this is something where we could add some efficiency just to let the county administrator sign. All delegations come from the board and on terms and conditions that are acceptable to you, but we propose some sideboards to try to narrow the category of agreements that we're talking about. So like Gary said, we're talking, they can't be leases, and that's something County Council would review. They wouldn't be over $5,000. They would be reviewed by County Council and the Risk Department, and the administrator would give this board an update each month to let you know how many of these were signed. So that is the request from County Council's office.
Any questions or clarifications for this action? No objections. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Andrew. Next, disaster management. Approval of a license agreement with Clackamas County Fairgrounds to rent facilities for 2 Wildfire community preparedness events. The contract is not to exceed $300. Funding is through budgeted county general funds. Quickly, so if you approve the item you just talked about, I would sign this in the future instead of having to come before you, just as an example. But Daniel Nybauer, Interim Director of Disaster Management, go ahead.
Chair and Commissioners, this will allow us to use the county fairgrounds for wildfire community events that I will talk to you about in a little bit. And it will allow us to host 2 events in Canby for community members to better prepare themselves and understand their risks of wildfire.
Any questions or comments? Any objections? Seeing none. Thank you,
All right, thank you,
Daniel.
Daniel. Next, Transportation and Development. 1, approval of a contract with Brown Contracting for the Fuller Causey Crosswalk Improvement Project. Total value is $268,515. Funding is through the Safe Routes to School Grant and the Community Road Fund. No county general funds are involved. Dan Johnson is the Director of Transportation and Development. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. A Safe Routes to School study was performed by Lot Wickham Elementary back in 2017 and identified enhanced crossing improvements that would be beneficial for the safety of the students. I'm going to cut to the chase. Essentially, this is a contract to put those improvements in place. The project was advertised in accordance with ORS and LCRB rules on February 8th, 2022. Bids were opened publicly on March 10th, 2022. After review of the bids, Brown Contracting Incorporated was determined to be the lowest responsive bidder.
Any questions or comments? Any objections? Seeing none.
Item 2, approval of a contract with Kittleson and Associates for the Amsinger Road, thank you, at Oregon 224 intersection improvements project. Total value is $663,500.26. Funding is through the Community Road Fund. No county general funds are involved.
The intersection of Amasiga Road and Oregon Highway 224 has been identified through our Community Road Fund Committee as a high priority improvement. Essentially, this is improvement in addition to vehicles entering from Oregon Highway 224 from Amasiga Road experience significant delay at peak travel periods. In addition to reducing travel times, the intersection improvements are also expected to increase safety with the provision of gaps for certain areas for traffic to merge into the roadway. The project was advertised in accordance with the ORS and LCRB rules on May 13th, 2021. Proposals were open on June 17th, 2021. An evaluation committee of DTD personnel evaluated the proposals and scored HDR's proposal the highest. However, negotiations with HBR came to an impasse in regards to the cost of the project. Staff recommended to move to the second highest proposer, which was Kittleson and Associates. And so we are here to request approval of this contract.
Any questions or objections? Seeing none.
Item 3, approval of a contract with Knife River Corporation Northwest for the Rural Systemic Curve Warning Signs Project. Total value is $389,001. Funding is through County Road Fund and the Community Road Fund. No county general funds are involved.
Thank you. The project will install updated curb warning signs on approximately 40 miles on 17 rural arterials in Clackamas County. The staff report before you identifies those roads that are going to be impacted. Those include Maxburg Road, Beaver Creek Road, Borland Road, Rosemont Road, Nice Bridge Road, 232nd Drive, Lone Elder Road, Malala Avenue, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a long list here. Essentially, the project was advertised in accordance with ORS and LCRB rules on February 2nd, 2022. Bids were publicly open on March 3rd, 2022. After review of the bids, Knife River Corporation Northwest was determined to be the lowest responsive bidder.
Any questions or comments? Didn't we just do this a while back?
Not
Those yellow signs that are on the curves?
We have done them in targeted areas. These essentially are targeted more towards our rural areas to deal with high-speed crash incidents that we've seen historically and systemically throughout our rural communities. So,
Thank you.
So Chair, I have a question on this. These are just fixed chevron signs, basically?
for the most part, yes, at certain spacing, so they're updated in regards to their ability to be visible with current standards and additional standards. We also there are more of them further distances away.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or objections? Hearing none.
Oh, sorry, one little quick question.
Go ahead, Sonia.
Appreciate this. Question, what are the criteria when you say lowest responsible bidder? I know it's not always the lowest, but the lowest responsible. What does responsible mean?
Responsive. I may have misspoke there. Lowest responsive bidder. So it was the low bid of those bids that were received.
Okay, so there isn't any other criteria?
Correct.
It's just cost?
Correct. That differs a little bit from design contracts on the quality and the performance and ability, and we can talk more about that at a later date.
All right.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Dan.
Item 4, approval of a contract with Knife River Corporation Northwest for the Damascus Area Safety Countermeasures Project. Total contract value is $511,845. Funding is through the Damascus Road Fund. No county general funds are involved.
This project is essentially to install updated warning signs and pavement markings at 13 intersections and along 2 roadway segments in the Damascus area. These signing and pavement improvements will result in measurable reductions in fatal and serious injury crashes on county rural roads. The project includes updating curve warning signs on 222nd Avenue and on Weiss Road, updating and enhancing safety signage and pavement markings at 13 Damascus intersections, including all major intersections on 222nd Avenue, 242nd Avenue, Tillstrom, plus the intersection of Weiss and Bonaparte Road. The project was advertised in accordance with ORS and LCRB rules on February 2nd, 2022. Bids were publicly open on March 3rd, 2022. After review of the bids, Knife River Corporation Northwest was determined to be the lowest responsive bidder.
Any objections or comments for this? Seeing none.
Okay, thank you. Next, Health, Housing, Human Services. Item 1, approval to apply to the Oregon Department of Transportation for Federal Transportation Administration Rural Transportation Funds for COVID-related operations of the Mount Hood Express. The grant value is $225,000. No county general funds are involved. Rod Cook is the Director of Health, Housing, Human Services. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. This grant is to support the continuing operations of the Mount Hood Express bus service and to mitigate the financial impacts of the COVID crisis. The funds would allow for service to continue over the next year despite loss of revenue.
Any questions or comments? Objections? Seeing none.
Item 2, approval of a grant agreement to a federal subrecipient grant agreement with Ant Farm. This amendment reallocates budgeted funds from administration and program delivery to rent assistance. The agreement value remains at $11,989,019. Funding is through a CARES Act grant. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, and I'll repeat what the administrator said. The basis of this one is the amendment shifts fund from the administration and program delivery to rent assistance. So this is a good thing for the renters out there who need some additional dollars.
Any comments or questions? Any objections? Seeing none.
Item 3, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Department of Human Services for the No Wrong Door services for Clackamas County residents age 60 and over. Total value is $285,387. Funding is through the Oregon General Funds and federal Medicaid funds. No county general funds are involved.
This program provides access to public and private long-term care services and support, including person-centered options counseling.
Any questions or comments? Any objections? Seeing none.
Item 4, approval of an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Health Authority for COVID-19 vaccination operations, increasing the contract value by $1 million for a new total contract value of $2,800,000. Funding is through the Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, this would enable Public Health Division to provide COVID-19 vaccinations to the community to help us reach the 100% vaccination rate.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Comments or questions? Objections? Seeing none.
Item 5, approval of a subrecipient agreement with the Mental Health and Addictions Association of Oregon for alcohol and drug recovery peer-delivered services. Contract not to exceed $702,953.16. Funding is through the Oregon Health Authority's Community Mental Health Program. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, this would provide peer support services for Clackamas County residents at risk of substance use and or addiction or in alcohol and drug recovery.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none. Any objections?
Item 6, approval of a subrecipient agreement with LifeWorks Northwest for intensive behavioral health case management services. Contract not to exceed $344,848.80. Funding is through the Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, this would provide intensive case management services to eligible Clackamas County residents. Mental health assessments, treatment planning, coordination of care, et cetera, would be involved with the intensive services.
Questions or comments? Any objections? Seeing none.
Item 7, approval of a fixed-price grant agreement with Oregon State University to provide parenting education and parenting professional development. Grant value is $58,770. Funding is through the Oregon State University. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, Oregon State University is providing continued funding to Clackamas County Children, Family, and Community Connections Division to provide evidence-based parent education coordination and programming.
Any questions or comments? Objections? Seeing none.
Item 8, approval of a revenue grant agreement with the State of Oregon Early Learning Division in Clackamas County on behalf of the Clackamas Early Learning Hub to support and manage coordinated enrollment into the Preschool Promise program. The grant amendment value is $15,291.48. The total grant value is now a maximum of $223,500. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, coordinated enrollment through the Clackamas Early Learning Hub will collaborate with partners to coordinate efforts of work related to enrollment into publicly funded early care and education services to include marketing, outreach and recruitment, eligibility determination and programming, and Preschool Promise program selection and placement.
Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, so Rod, that's you're talking about like Head Start Healthy Start?
Yes,
and,
those would be the entities they would be referring to.
Okay,
Yes.
so
We're
not any other,
coordinating-
not any other.
Our hub is, Early Learning Hub is coordinating the effort.
Okay, and so they're working with the school,
Yes.
Clackamas ESD with that. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Objections? Seeing none.
Item 9, approval of a revenue grant agreement from the Oregon Department of Education Early Learning Division for Healthy Families Oregon program. The amendment recaptures excess Medicaid earnings. The grant amendment value is 13,000, wait, yes, 13, wait. It's missing a comma, and it's messed me up. $1,343.95. Total grant value is now a maximum of $1,793,884.53. No county general funds are involved.
Yeah, this is basically technical. The amendment would allow for the county to draw down the full amount of administrative costs associated with the grant. So this is kind of like the administrative fees that we're now being able to draw down.
Any comments or questions? Objections? Seeing none.
Okay, thank you. Next, Human Resources. Item 1, approval of the 2021-2024 labor agreement between Clackamas County and the Clackamas County Employees Association. Total contract value over 3 years is $16,688,652, funded through budgeted county general funds and other budgeted funds, including state and federal funds, fees, and fines. Eric Serra will be back again. He's the Deputy Director of Human Resources and the county's Chief Labor Negotiator. High-level quick update, please, Eric.
Thank you. Clackamas County and the CCEA entered into bargaining for 3 new labor contracts on February 24th of 2021. The previous contracts expired July 1 of 2021. Both parties, Clackamas County and the CCEA, reached tentative agreement on March 9th of 2022. The CCEA held a ratification vote, and that ratification vote passed, and asking for your approval that these contracts will establish new wages and working conditions for the CCEA represented employees, both the main group and our part-time employees as well.
Thank you, Eric. Any comments or questions? Any objections on this? Seeing none.
Item 2, and Eric has just discussed it, approval of the 2021-2024 labor agreement between Clackamas County and the Clackamas County Employees Association for temporary and part-time employees. Total contract value for the 3-year contract is $1,698,743, funded through budgeted county general funds and other budgeted funds, including state and federal funds, fees, and fines. Anything to add, Eric?
No.
Covered it, okay.
Any questions or comments for the presenter? Any objections? Seeing none.
Thank you, Eric. Finally, Juvenile Department, item 1, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Department of Human Services to facilitate the county's participation in the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Title 4E reimbursement program. The agreement value is not to exceed $400,000, funded through the Oregon Department of Human Services. No county general funds are involved. Christina McMahon is the director of our Juvenile Department. Go ahead.
Good morning, Chair Smith, Commissioners. Christina McMahon, Juvenile Department Director for Clackamas County. I am here to ask your approval of this intergovernmental agreement with the State of Oregon's Child Welfare Division, specifically so that we can get reimbursed for work that we are already doing. So this is a good program. Unfortunately, you can see from my staff report, over time, especially the last 2 years with the pandemic, our reimbursements have dropped a little bit, about 16%. We do not know what will happen in this post-pandemic world, but our hope is that we will be able to see our reimbursements increase as we get back to more normal functions. So specifically, we get reimbursed for youth who are at risk, who are involved in the juvenile justice system, who are involved with our department and are at risk of being placed outside of their home or are actually placed outside of their home. And we use this funding that we receive to help pay for those out-of-home placements. So that's really the program in a nutshell.
Thank you. Any questions or comments, Commissioner Fisher?
Yeah, I'm just curious, who are the providers of those out-of-home placements, like Boys and Girls Aid Society or?
Actually, yes, Boys and Girls Aid Society and Maple Star of Oregon.
Oh, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any objections to this going forward? Seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. So with your approval, Commissioners, all of these consent agenda items will be on this Thursday's business meeting agenda.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the other issues list. Wildfire Awareness Month update. Daniel Neibauer, Interim Director of Disaster Management, will give you an update. There was a memo in your packet. Go ahead, Daniel.
Good morning again, Commissioners. Disaster Management has been working with Public and Government Affairs to hold some events and some activities over May, which is Wildfire Awareness Month. And so we're going to be doing two big pushes. One will be a 31-day challenge throughout the month over social media and other tasks for people to be better prepared for a wildfire. Each week will have its topic and then specific activities within the week. Week 1 will be stay informed, teaching people how to know their hazards, get public alerts and things like that. Week 2 will be make a plan. What are the items you need to have to make your plan? How are you going to communicate? Where are you going to meet? Week 3 will be defend your home, and so that will be around how to create defensible space, as well as telling people to, actually get out and do that, not just what are the theories behind it, but how to do it. Week 4 will be pack your kit, and we'll tell people the different items that their kit should contain and give them hints on how to put that together. And the culmination of all of that will be hopefully engaging with the community members and tracking them and seeing responses and for those that are posting, maybe we'll find some way to recognize the community members' efforts in that. The second will be, we'll be holding 8 events, preparedness with our partners, anywhere from fire districts to Sheriff's Office, Red Cross, and plenty of county departments are being involved. We're holding them in 6 different locations, Beaver Creek, Eagle Creek, Colton, Hoodland, and Estacada. We're doing 2 in Canby. 1 will be in Spanish, and then we'll be holding a virtual event. They'll have about hour to hour and a half worth of just presentations and discussions meant to be interactive with those that are there, and then question and answer in the end. And then for those physical events, we'll have handouts and booths for folks to be able to come and ask questions that they perhaps weren't able to have answered during the official presentation. We'll be kicking it off later this week by getting some of the initial information on the events and offering signups. And then Monday, May 2nd, fire districts, Sheriff's Office, and Disaster Management will meet with the media and let them kind of know that plan and answer any of the questions that they may have.
Well, thank you, Daniel. That sounds quite comprehensive. Do we have any questions or comments for the Daniel Neibauer on Fire Prevention Month in May?
It's just great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is very needed. Yeah, very good. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Daniel, could you send the dates of all the community events to the commissioners in case any of them want to drop by? They can just drop by if their schedule allows.
Can do. I'll get that out to you.
Absolutely.
Get that to you, commissioners. Thank you, Daniel. Next, Metro Solid Waste Disposal Fee Setting Update. Dan Johnson, Director, I heard that sigh, Dan. Dan Johnson, Director of Transportation and Development. This is just an update on what's going on in the status. No decisions today. There was a memo in your packet. Go ahead, please, Dan.
It's a good hearing, Gary. So let's harken back to April 5th. April 5th, staff came before the Board of County Commissioners and provided you an update on engagement with Metro regarding their setting of their disposal fees and related budget process. At the end of that presentation, the board approved sending a comment letter to Metro with requests for a couple different things. One, a breakdown of cost drivers for Metro fee recovery and increases, greater dialogue and consultation with jurisdictions in Metro. Last but not least, more certainty and proportional regional revenue sharing were the 3 primary points to that letter. Metro acknowledged receipt of the letter, asking for some clarification. Our letter was also discussed in an April 12, 2022 Pamplin Media article, which is attachment A to your packet. And on April 21st, Metro replied with a letter to the board, attachment D to your packet. Since April 5th, as requested by the board, staff has monitored some additional Metro discussions on disposal fees, which turned out to only cover previously shared information at a higher level. There was an April 7th presentation of the Metro Waste Prevention and Environmental Service, WPES, department budget. There was also a forum and listening session on April 7th. And then on April 14th, Metro Council met, had a public hearing on the proposed budget. I do want to inform the board that since this material was submitted, there also was an action from Metro Council, unbeknownst to staff, but which occurred last Thursday, where Metro Council approved the first. If you recall, there was a grade of changes that proposed an annual forecasting of needed increases to the tipping fees discussion we shared with you last time. They approved year one, this next year, the 7%, slightly above 7% increase, but that's not referenced in your packet, but I want to make sure the board was aware of that. So in short, I do want to acknowledge the fact that Metro did acknowledge that what they had heard from the community, not only ourselves, but other jurisdictional partners. One was an opportunity to review and discuss budget priorities sooner. Second, there was a request for a table of Metro solid waste fees from 1980 to 2022. More detail on the drivers of these fee increases at these transfer stations, and a continued focus on opening these lines of communication. At the conclusion of that last WPES meeting, there was a questionnaire or a survey that was thrown out by Metro. That is also included in your packet as attachment C. And essentially, we've got some additional engagement discussions we have to have with the board, one of which is the final engagement opportunity on this topic is scheduled by Metro on May 3rd, 2022, which is a public hearing where the Metro Council Budget Committee will deliberate on the proposed budget. Metro Council is scheduled to adopt its budget on May 5th, 2022. Some actions that we can do between now and then, one of which would be the board directing staff to fill out that survey consistent with the comments that you have given us to date and provide that information to Metro directly. In addition, there's the opportunity to provide testimony at Metro's budget meeting on May 3rd, 2022. The recommendation before you today is, from staff's perspective, is at a minimum that staff be afforded the ability to share the board's comments and concerns that you shared with us at the prior meeting as a part of that survey and submit those survey materials. We stand prepared to do additional should the board direct us or desire to. That is all I have for this portion of this presentation.
Thank you, Dan. Commissioner Savas.
I'm still struggling. I read the material, and I'm still struggling to understand, 10 words, even 10 sentences or less, as to the justification or the rationale as to why the sharp increases or the math that bona fides that. So it seems to be lacking, and you mentioned you got some information back at a higher level, which means less detail, as I understand it, versus more detail. But it seems to be that a very basic thing, and it's also as though that when they raise the rates, if we don't raise the rates or back to our providers, if you will, then they are suffering in the ability to deliver service, but yet it's Metro that's actually increasing the rates, not us.
That is one portion. That is topic number 2 that I get to share with you. But essentially, those increases in those tipping fees are incorporated in our assessment of what the rates are to the individuals and citizens of Clackamas County. They are a portion of that assessment. That is correct.
Yeah, but I'm still struggling with when do we get the detail as to why those sharp increases?
If I had a crystal ball, I'd love to tell you. I don't. We haven't asked for that detail. We have asked for that detailed information. There is reference in here about it being shared, and there is a discussion around the inflationary impacts, cost of doing business, et cetera. We have also asked for, and we're going to talk furthermore with Commissioner Scholl, because MPAC is advancing on this waste management infrastructure assessment on what those capital needs are for that program. Because in our mind, that rate needs to be, and those increases need to be tied to consensus around a plan on what the region believes they need for a specific project.
Gary Schmidt.
Commissioner Savas, would you turn your microphone on, please?
It is.
Is it on?
Light's on. I haven't touched it.
I apologize. Our
Go
system
ahead.
shows it's off.
Sorry. Go ahead. Dan, continue to
Dan,
answer.
wrap it up, Dan.
So essentially, again, staff is here. We don't have any specific additional information to share with you regarding that rate dialogue. We are here to basically, again, request the board's authorization to, at a minimum, submit those comments to Metro as a part of that survey that you echoed to us at that last meeting. If you'd like to do more, we stand ready to do so.
Commissioners, do you have any comments on the presenter's request?
It's good.
I think it's good as well. Shoal?
Yes, Dan, on this 21 April vote by Metro, where they recommended, or they voted on the 7.1 increase for tipping fees for FY 22-23, and they say that they intend to keep the targeted increase between 7 and 8% over the next 5 years. That's a whole bunch of money. In your survey and maybe testimony on May 3rd, can we put in a strong objection to that and at least get some clarification on the justifications for that 35+% increase
Yes.
over those 5 years?
Those comments were echoed in the letter that we submitted to Metro as well. And again, because it's a compounding increase on those
Right,
on an
exactly.
annual basis.
Yeah.
And so I think that the letter that we sent originally, we can pull from that, and that will echo those comments and concerns.
Right, okay, good,
Yep.
thanks.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, marching orders? Dan, I think what you want to do would probably be a good idea.
Great. We will get that submitted on the board's behalf.
All right, thank you very much.
Chair, in response to your query there, just the only thing I'd add is I'd just like to know what other recourse that we have that maybe we haven't explored yet.
Okay. Thank you, Dan.
All right, so the staff will complete the survey on your behalf. Do any of you want to testify on this at the Metro budget meeting next week? Which is also in the memo, May 3rd.
One of us probably should. Is it virtual?
I believe so, yes.
Commissioners, does anybody have a druthers on it? I could do it if there's no takers.
I'd be happy to do it,
Commissioner Shaw, you'd like to do that?
yes.
Okay. Would you please work with staff on talking points?
Yes, thank you, I
You
sure will.
betcha.
Okay, very good, thank you. Next item is request for a policy session on the annual review of garbage and recycling collection costs. There was a memo in your packet. Dan will also present.
I want to make crystal clear, this is not a discussion about raising rates. It is simply an annual assessment that we do that takes in information regarding setting up fees for our waste collection. For example, the tipping fee discussion a second ago is a part of that assessment. This essentially is a request for a policy session at a future date, once we've shared the information from the analysis that we've completed with our Solid Waste Commission, to hear that recommendation and bring it in front of the board for discussion. There are a lot of things pressuring that discussion up and down, and while I cannot attest to you if it's going to be frozen or if it's going to be higher, that is a product of that study and that assessment and staff's work. We are readily apparent of the concerns of the board in increasing fees in this difficult time, and we'll do our best. But basically, it's a request for a policy session at a future date to discuss.
When does this need to happen? It sounds to me like you have to go back to the Solid Waste Commission.
It does. We're presenting on May 12th with the Solid Waste Commission. We had asked for late May, early June.
Okay, so late May's budget. Gary, I'm fine with having a policy session on this. I think it's a matter of scheduling.
Perfect. And
So
we
if
can
we
work
can
with
go ahead, would with the PAs, figure out what a good schedule would be. Is this a public hearing or just a policy session?
at this, just a policy session.
Will it morph into a public hearing at all?
If there is a rate increase, I believe so, yes.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next item is seeking your approval, Commissioners, for the county to pay dues for me to be a member of the International City County Management Association. The dues cost $1,400 a year. It is paid by general funds. It is budgeted, but I'm seeking your permission, if you allow me to do that with county dollars or not.
Comments?
Of course.
Yes. I'll entertain a motion.
I move approval of the fees for the association for Gary Schmidt to be a member.
Second.
Commissioner Fisher has moved, we pay $1,400 dues for the Administrators Association, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Tony, please call the poll.
Yes, Chair. Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner Zavis,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank
Gary?
you, Commissioners. Next, your business meeting agenda for this Thursday, April 28th, 2022 at 10 a.m. Currently, there's no items other than public communication, but you have just approved a lengthy consent agenda list, which we will add for this Thursday. If you have any questions on any consent items, if you let me know prior to Thursday, and we're happy to get those questions answered for you. Next, Commissioner Savas would like to update the board on I-205 tolling update.
Yeah, thank you. I'm checking my email real fast to see if I had a review by the attorney so I can share that with you if it indeed has arrived. And there is something here. Why don't you go on the next one and I'll be ready.
Okay. Next item is Chair Smith would like to give an update on the potential fireworks ban in unincorporated Clackamas County.
Thank you, Gary. Since we last discussed this potential fireworks ban, I have had calls and inquiries from people in the community, and I think I've reached out and tried to get as much information as we can. We had a meeting with Gary, myself, Daniel Neibauer, and the fireworks wholesalers, the largest fireworks distributor in the state of Oregon, which I learned is very highly regulated, even the storage of which the one gentleman owns a huge warehouse in Aurora, which it was built nowadays to encompass this. I think he said it'd have to be on 10 acres by itself. And regarding the sale of fireworks, those purchases have to be made last August, and they store them, and the storage is very particular. Now, fireworks season, which I learned, I didn't know this, occurs from June 23rd to July 13th. It's a very short amount of time, just 2 weeks. So if we were to ban the use of fireworks, it puts a hamper on the sale of fireworks, obviously. I've reviewed a lot of data, and I've talked with Daniel. I've gone over the drought data that by the end of March indicated a southern portion of Clackamas County could be in a drought, along with Marion County. Since then, we've had about 7 inches of rain in April, and the snowpack has increased quite a bit. I was up on Mount Hood this weekend, government camp, and it was, it was just tremendous, more than we had in January. What the snowpack is, I don't know. I've also reached out to the 3 counties who border us, Marion County Commission, Washington County Commission, and Multnomah County Commission, and they will not be banning fireworks this year. Deborah Kafori of Multnomah County said they're going to wait to see if there's a bad weather situation, and then we can act on that. Catherine Harrington from Washington County said actually last year, I'm reading from my notes, Tualatin Valley Fire said their incidence of fireworks events was actually lower last year after the heat dome than any other time before. So, Commissioners, I recommend that we continue with an education effort, a safety effort. This only applies to Clackamas County unincorporated. Just because we could ban fireworks, they're still going to go off. I remember last year we banned them, and the 4th of July they were going out all over on the outskirts beyond my farm. It was crazy. So I'm going to recommend that we do not institute a ban at this time, that we just wait for weather events. We had so what I learned is the state of Washington looks at this whole situation different than we do. And what was brought to me from these gentlemen was what Pierce County, Washington, and Clark County, Washington is doing. And they use their fire marshal, and they take special readings at 6 points throughout each county for soil measurement and energy and wind load and all kinds of other loads that we don't do here. And it would behoove Clackamas County to do that, but Daniel checked on it for us, fire marshals. No, we're not going to do that. For instance, if we were to go with the ODF&W fire warnings of low, medium, high, and extreme, that applies to the southern portion of the county where there's timberland, correct? That is a special case. However, when you look into other unincorporated areas of Clackamas County, around Cami, Molalla, Oak Grove, Damascus, those conditions would not be the same. So a county-wide fireworks ban, to me, really doesn't make sense. I don't know if we can ever get to what was presented to us on this. it would be very problematic. So I'm going to recommend that we don't do a ban this year. Commissioner Schrader.
Yes, I just wanted to mention, Chair, I appreciate what you just had to say. I did have a coffee yesterday with Gary Ostley, who I think represents a number of the folks that you have already spoken to. I told him I would bring it up under issues, but you're way ahead of the curve on this, and I think they will be very happy to hear what you just said. And I think that their ask is they're not like fundamentally no fireworks ban no matter what, as much as including the suppliers, including the folks that sell the products, because there are a lot of nonprofits evidently throughout this county that, like Boy Scouts and Girls Club, who oftentimes will sell fireworks locally as fundraisers, and in actuality, the biggest problem is not just it's really not the small fireworks, it's the larger illegal kinds of fireworks that people oftentimes will, it's not the kid with the sparkler that's going to cause, or the little snap thing you throw on the street. So I just wanted to make my colleagues aware I did have that conversation yesterday.
Good.
And I did suggest that they give you a ring and talk to you directly, and I'll get that message to them, and maybe even speak to the rest of our commissioners if they would like.
Now, is Gary Ostley a seller?
No,
He's
Gary
just-
Oxley is their hired lobbyist. I
Oh,
believe.
Oxley, yes, I know
Oxley.
Gary.
Yes, you know Gary.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
Gary. Yeah.
I thought you said Ostley. I know Gary,
Oxley.
sure. Very good, very good.
Yeah, so it was a good conversation, and it was nice that they reached out to me, and
I learned a lot about fireworks that I never thought I would before, and it really is technical and highly, highly regulated. Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, I like your idea of a strong public education program this year to make people aware of the need to be safe with fireworks. The sale of fireworks that are legal in Oregon are already the, type of stuff we used to share with our kids when they were 7, 8 years old. The problem is the fireworks that are already banned in Oregon, and that's the big stuff that comes from Washington State, Idaho, Nevada, and if you fly over any part of Oregon on the 4th of July at night, you'll see it everywhere. And I don't know how we've been fighting that for years. Those fireworks have been outlawed for years, but they still get here. So a strong public awareness program is far better, I think, than a ban on illegal fireworks.
And I'll remind the commissioners, last time we discussed this, and then Commissioner Savas is going to be up. For instance, the Molalla Buckaroo and the city of Molalla have a professional fireworks display because of their rodeo, and there are other jurisdictions will be doing that as well. I think in response to the fireworks situation, I don't think any city in Clackamas County is going to ban fireworks, because I reached out to all the mayors. And they responded, and the ones who didn't respond said, I'm not going to do anything. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I'm inclined to, maybe we should revisit this here in about a month. I'm just concerned with the nature of the fires that are currently happening in the country right now, and the awareness of this, that a fireworks ban, did have an effect last year. I listened intently to Commissioner Scholl's comments, and I would say that you're right. It's not going to stop some of the illegal fireworks that come in from outside of Oregon, and the aerials and so forth. But I noticed a reduction in people using them. So July 4th was not the same this year. There was still some of that happening, but not as much. But more importantly, the days prior and the days afterwards was significantly reduced. You have to see a couple fires and be involved in a couple fires as a result of fireworks. I have, unfortunately, I watched one of my neighbor's house burn down from a bottle rocket. Actually went up in the shingles, and the house burned down, and also involved in a forest fire in the community that I came from. So
that was an illegal firework?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too bad about illegal fireworks. We can't do anything about that. Okay, any other comments, questions from commissioners on this topic? Gary, are we clear?
Yep, we're not bringing this back.
Thank you.
All right, until you tell us to.
Yeah, tell you to. Yeah,
okay.
if something changes, obviously.
Yep. Okay, next, Commissioner Savas, are you ready for a tolling update?
Yeah. So the update I have is that there's a draft out there. We're not privy to it exactly, but I did have a little bit of questions to Mr. Madcore, which he responded in saying that it really wouldn't necessarily, as proposed, may not be really that binding. And the agreement's not between us. This potential agreement that the Metro Council might be looking at this morning, I believe, is between Metro Council and ODOT on tolling. And so basically it's the MTIP, the MTIP amendment that we've been talking about for a long time, which they may proceed with this week or today. And the agreement would basically kind of reinforce a couple of things, but as I understand it, it may not be that binding. I just want to make you really aware of it. Last week, when I put this on the agenda, there was talk of maybe the county or the local jurisdictions and the cities would be party to this. That's not the case, apparently. So this is kind of like late. It came out this morning a little bit, and I don't have very much to share other than it's an update. That there may be an agreement. It's not, I won't say vague, but it may not really be binding in the end. So I've been advocating for local input, local control. There might be some of that that's in there, but if it's not binding, what good is it? So.
Okay, well, I think that's encouraging, Paul. Thank you, and keep us informed, please.
You bet.
You bet. When's your next meeting? Not for a while?
Meeting with who? Which meeting?
JPAC or MPAC?
JPAC will be JPAC was last Thursday, so it's a month from now, probably the next one. And the diversion committee was also last week as well, so that'll be another month from now.
Okay, great. Commissioner Fisher?
Yeah, so I'm just curious, you said that there's a draft out there between Metro Council and ODOT related to the MTIP amendment. It's an agreement, but it may not be binding. So what is it?
Basically,
what's the agreement? What are the terms?
We'll know more here soon, so I'll share that with you. I don't have all of that. But all I know is that the values and everything that everyone's been working on and trying to get agreement with ODOT, it's basically the same. ODOT has complied with some of that, so to speak, but not all of it. So this might add another layer or two. And I think really there's just a lot of pressure on ODOT right now to help comply. But we've asked for a lot of information. We've asked for a lot of things in writing from ODOT. We haven't got everything we asked for. We've gotten some. But when we know more, we'll share more.
Okay, so if someone like me who's not in the room where it happens on transportation wants to know what Metro is proposing to go into an agreement with ODOT, where would I get that summary? Is there meeting minutes somewhere if they're addressing it at Metro today?
Today, I guess we'll have it, yeah. It's all public. It'll be public today if there's something that's agreed to or in their material, so.
Okay, great. So if it's up to date, that's awesome. Thank you, Paul.
If I get something that's firmed up and agreed to, I'll make sure our staff forward it to all y'all.
Yeah, I'm just aware of what at least Metro Councilor Christine Lewis has been advocating for with Clackamas County in mind, and I'm very interested to see if that's become part of this larger discussion regarding equity, regarding when tolling happens, that it be the whole region that is tolled. I know that has been a conversation that has been at the table. I know that Metro did not proceed with a vote we thought they were going to proceed on based on timing issues. And I also know because there were so many regional leaders at the Equity 2.0 conversation that Martine invited us to, and Paul, you were there. I'm not sure if you had these conversations, but there really seems to be consensus around the region is that if congestion pricing is so important and we're going to turn on that switch to congestion price with tolling, then we need to turn on the switch for the entire region and not have Clackamas County be first. So those are the things I'm really looking for. I'm really looking for that sort of meat and substance in our conversations with ODOT, is if they are taking form at the regional table.
And that looks like that's probably not going to happen, that we will be first. And there's language in there that if the region doesn't get tolled, that there will be, that the bonding and the tolling will cease once the project's paid for. However, if you all watched, last week, a lot of discussion with the president and staff and other folks about the Interstate Bridge project and how much money will be going into that. That revenue needed will probably come from regional tolling. So that's very expensive. So tolling may be here for the rest of our lifetime.
I would say that's an accurate assessment.
It's not my wish.
Nope, but I think that's an accurate assessment. Okay. Any other comments on this topic? Gary, what's up next?
Final item today is Commissioner Communications.
Okay, dokie. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first, if
Go
that's okay.
ahead.
I have a request from the Oregon City Business Alliance.
Oh.
And in June, the homeless services measure is going to be the topic of, or Clackamas County and homelessness. Working together to solve homelessness is the topic. I know that we will be providing some presentations at this forum, and they are giving us the opportunity to sponsor with a $500 contribution, and I would just like to bring that forward and hope that commissioners would agree that this would be a good forum to sponsor.
And where is this?
At the Abernathy Center.
They're actually one of the best organizations. They're not a chamber exactly. There's an Oregon City Chamber, but this group is very active and actually comes up with, I think, real tangible outcomes for the area.
Well,
So-
Commissioners, we have reviewed other sponsorships and requests. What do you want to do?
Well, I have a lot of respect for the Oregon City Business Alliance. I would have no objections to supporting them.
Do I hear a motion?
I move we support the Oregon City Business Alliance sponsorship for their Working Together to Solve Homelessness forum.
I have a question.
Can we have a second first?
Second.
Go ahead, Paul.
So the question is, do we have any idea who will be on the panel?
You know, I should have that in my memory bank, and I don't. I'm sorry, but I can find out and get that to you.
It seems with all this debate going on in Portland about the people for Portland and Here Together, that it'd be great if both those organizations could be represented. That would really, I would definitely be there for that.
Yeah, it sounds very interesting to me as well. Getting that perspective from the business community coming in and saying, we could do it better, or we have efficiencies, or maybe different ideas than the information that we get. Yeah. Okay. I don't know either.
Well, I'm going to be heading there for the supply chain topic
right.
that is today when we close down this meeting, and I'll ask Kent about that.
Okay, good. All righty.
If I can make it, yeah.
Yeah, report back to us on that, please. There's a motion on the table. Any other further discussion? Tony, please call the poll.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Have you finished, Commissioner
Yes, I
Fisher?
have. Thank
You
you.
cost us $500. You're done. Okay. Commissioner Savas, you're up next.
Yeah, I happen to, I don't know. I know this tolling topic's just huge and complex, but I happened to hear from a former mayor here at a public forum last week that, with about 100 people in the room, that this former mayor had I consider the former mayor a friend, but just misinformed, but told a lot of people that the question was, will there be tolling in the metro region? And the answer was, that's up to the Clackamas County Commission.
No.
And of course, oh no, so it's not our choice, but I just want you to be aware that I think we're going to have to beat the horn quite often, frankly, to just clarify and message that it's not our decision or hasn't been our decision. So, and I guess as things go on, I just think we're going to have to do messaging so people understand who's actually making the call. Back to the legislature discussion earlier with our public safety discussion that we just had. People need to know where these decisions are being made, and I think it just puts a lot of pressure on us to make sure that people's misunderstandings are corrected and directed and clarified so they know who to talk to if they don't like what's taking place out in our state or this region. More discussions. I know we're talking about this drug, alcohol, mental health treatment thing, but my goodness, again, I just want to renew my efforts. Maybe Commissioner Schrader can help with Lane County and reach out and see what they did, how they funded their facility. But if no one steps up, no one being the legislature, the state, and or these here together or people for Portland, and don't see the need, the revenue stream is there, I think, to do this. And I think they could make a commitment. There may be some middle ground.
Yeah.
But pointing the finger and saying, no, it's not us, it's them, and yet things are getting worse and crime's getting worse. Our law enforcement and our ability to provide solid law enforcement is being distracted by all these calls for drug, alcohol, mental health situation.
Absolutely.
That is not it's not their primary responsibility or perceived or originally structured to deal with. But it is today. That's what I have. Thank you.
Yeah, well, good comments. Commissioner Schrader, you're up.
Yeah, I just wanted to, Commissioner Savis's point, I'm on working with the Association of Oregon Counties. I'm the vice chair of their County Solutions Group, and one of the things we're looking at is housing, particularly for veterans again, and Pat Farr is very intimately involved in that. We'll be having another discussion on Friday. I'd like to get back to you because I think some of these questions that you're asking, they're actually looking at it from our state associations level, and there's some other models in some of the rural areas of the state, as well as our model in Lane County, that I think that you might even want to come and listen in. So we can kind of plug into that and really get the models that we need and get different ideas for funding. So there's that one piece. Second piece I'd like to give my colleagues an update is that I met with Britta Mansfield, who is a Willamette Falls Heritage Organization Executive Director. They have a few things they would like me to mention. They have just received the John Klatt Collection, which includes old Oregon photos. It has received the generous donation of a research library and the old Oregon photos business from John Klatt. They're continuing to operate the business website and take orders. They're going to be launching as part of a coalition event on May 7th. And showcasing it at a community event at Philip Foster Farm on May 14th. Eventually, both resources will be available at our Multicultural Center in Historic City Hall. And John Klatt has recently passed away. Wonderful man, did a wonderful collection. He is was Jody's Carson's husband. So we just want to say how sorry we are to have that happen a number of weeks ago. But he generously, before he passed away, wanted to donate these old Oregon photos so everyone could enjoy them. Some of the other things that they continue to do, they're still pursuing the National Heritage status. And basically what they're doing until it is obtained, they are behaving like a national heritage area. They're continuing to raise awareness of the region's history while enhancing local economies. They're strategizing for a new round of conversations with legislators, I believe, at the local and federal level to try and keep this on track. They've launched a virtual heritage trail. It's a digital asset that will help visitors and locals connect the heritage sites through the entire 56 river mile region. They've launched with roughly 30 sites, and they're going to expand it as they uncover more sites as they move forward. And our 50-year business program is back. That was something that they had done. Their last celebration planned for 2020 was canceled. And now they are excited they celebrate the business community this year and focusing on 50 businesses that are 50 years old and older, and how they can drive customers to these people to support their local economies. And basically they're going to have an event, so keep our eyes out for that to attend. And they wanted to thank us. Okay, so here comes the final ask. Generally, ladies and gentlemen, every year we do give them $15,000 to carry out some of their activities. I'm not asking for a vote today. I'm just mentioning it, and it may be something that we discuss at some later date with Gary, but I'm not asking for a vote today, but I wanted to make
Thank
it.
God, because you wouldn't get one.
Oh, I know, that's like, hey, I'm not.
15,000?
Hey,
I just about like, okay.
I got more though. This ain't my first time at the rodeo with this, so I know, but I felt compelled as the liaison to this group.
Heads up.
To tell them that I would mention it, and of
And where do you
course,
think this, what pots of money do you think this would come from?
I don't know yet, but I'll find out.
Magic money.
About that. If you give me an opportunity to noodle around some
Commissioner
stuff, I'll
Schmidt,
do
or
that for you.
Commissioner Schmidt,
I don't want to be a commissioner. Thank you. I
can I
appreciate all you
I'll
do.
trade for you, we'll trade places for a
No,
month.
no, thank you, no. So we have been funding this for about 10 years. It's paid for
Yeah,
the
I know.
tourism department through transient room tax.
Yes,
It's already in the
so it's
budget.
not-
You don't
it's
have to
no-
ask. It's already been paid.
It's no.
You paid every year for about 10
It's no
years.
general fund piece. It's
No general fund, tourism, transient room tax
So
pays it.
does that work for you, Chair?
Well, it's already in the budget, so I don't have to deal with
Don't have to
it.
deal with it.
Okay?
Done.
And I should have known that.
You
right?
In all transparency.
All right. I've got one more thing I want to talk about quickly. As many of you know, I had the opportunity at 3:30 in the morning Hawaii time to testify in front of the United States International Trade Commission. It was a very interesting experience. I hope I was cogent because usually I'm not up that early, and managed to contract Montezuma's revenge the next day from a toddler. So I'm not even sure I was on my game, but I did the best I could. But one of the things I wanted to mention was some of the questions they asked, and part of my testimony is here. In an increasingly connected global economy, counties have a vested interest in ensuring local businesses are connected to the global economy through international exports and foreign direct investments, the FDI, that's important. Between 2003 and 2020, new foreign direct investments projects created more than 1.6 million jobs, tended to have, and brought in over $748 billion in 1,400 counties. Those counties with new foreign investment tended to have faster jobs growth and faster GDP growth than those without FDI, foreign direct investment. In counties with FDI, jobs grew by 14%, and economic output, gross domestic product, grew by 30% from 2003 to 2017. The counties without GDI, in contrast, grew only by 5%, and economic output grew by 24% during that same period. So I mentioned that, and so I got a question from a lovely gentleman, and once again, I was thinking to myself, please don't biff this. These are certifiably smart people here, and I'm just a, kind of a gal from Clackamas County, right? So in any case, well, the question was, well, how do you do direct foreign investment? How do you do it where you guys are? And I actually was thinking on my feet a little bit more than I thought I was. And I mentioned the Greater Portland Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy developed by Greater Portland, Inc. Basically, this is the group that is designated as an Economic Development District, or GPED, by the U.S. Department of Commerce's Economic Development Agency. It qualifies projects that align with the CEDS within the district, which includes Multnomah, Washington, Clackamas, and Clark counties, to receive funding from the EDA. And so not only just do they have the CEDS that is useful, one of the things they also have is what they call Global Portland, and it is this body of folks who are really bankers, CEOs of companies in the area, places like the Standard or larger, that really facilitate not only growing businesses here, such as what they did with Amazon and Canby, but also encouraging foreign investment. Two of the biggest examples I can think of off the top of my head is Daimler Trucking, which is a German company. That was something that these folks, they find the sites, they work with everybody in the region. They're the ones that bring the push to the whole piece of this to, make sure that a foreign company is getting everything they want to actually directly invest here. Another company which does, I think, medical measuring manufacturing is Shimatsu in Canby, Japanese. And I do know that there is a German medical manufacturing company that does heart valves in Lake Oswego. The name eludes me. I'll find out what the name of that is. But those are just off the top of my head, 3 of the examples that I had to come up with at 3:30 in the morning to say, yes, this is how we do foreign direct investment. And they asked me, what about our exports? And I said, if it's got an agricultural tag to it, we export it. Hazelnuts, strawberries, frozen strawberries, wheat. We're one of the major suppliers to the Pacific Rim for those kinds of things. And I also mentioned that we're a member of the Oregon-China Council, and we have a sister city in Fujian, actually in Guanyun County in China, and we maintain that relationship in the hopes that we can attract investment here. And as you know, a number of our companies here, like Blount and Bob's Red Mill, and Warren Winches have a very robust manufacturing presence in China as well.
Good.
So that's some of the stuff we talked about, and keep your fingers crossed. I hope I'll get to do more of this work at the National Association in July, and that's the news that I have for that, and
Thank you, Martha.
Went well.
Yes, I'm glad you did all that. Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, last Thursday I attended the Oregon and California counties board meeting in Coos Bay, and one of the issues that we talked about was the payment for FY21 for secure rural schools. And this year, Forest Service harvest, the money coming to Clackamas County would be about $1.2 million, divided up into Title I, Title II, and Title III. Quickly in the way of background, Title I is safety net payments for county services and schools. Title II is for restoration of healthy conditions on public lands. And Title III is for county services related to federal forest lands, such as search and rescue and fire protection. And on the harvest on O&C lands managed by BLM, we're looking at a check for $815,000 should come in this Friday. And for the payment in lieu of taxes on federal lands for Clackamas County, we should be seeing a check for somewhere around $625,000, and that should be here the first week of June.
Wow.
So that's secure rural school payments for FY21. And on litigation issues, I think you already know that the United States is seeking recovery for damages to timber on BLM and national forest lands that were lost in the Archie Creek fire. But on O&C lands, if a tree is harvested or lost, and anywhere in Oregon on BLM-managed O&C land, we get a cut, okay? So we have an interest in what was lost in this fire. And our attorney for the association, Kevin Davis, is working with the U.S. Attorney in Portland now and working on that litigation. And also, the Association of O&C Counties is looking for a new executive director. That's still ongoing. On June 24th, there's going to be a field tour of Northwest Oregon BLM district lands that maybe we might want to go to. And finally, yesterday, I had the privilege of doing interviews for the new Planning Commission applicants with Commissioner Savas. It was very interesting. We had 4 applicants. They were all outstanding. Commissioner Savas and I made a recommendation on who should be selected, and you'll be seeing that in the next, I think, couple days.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
Great. Wonderful reports, Commissioners. You've been very busy, as all of us have been. Hearing no further comments before this board, we are adjourned.